the attendance. Okay, hi everyone, here, scan the attendance. Great, thank you. Anyways, to go back about Julia, yeah, she's super awesome. I also like have been really interested in people who teach as well as make films and using that as part of your, to pay the bills, but also to share your knowledge. And she, I think, is teaching foundations, or at least has taught that in the past. But also she loves doing films on actual like 16mm film, which is also really neat. But Julia Halpern, she's on our campus. You can say hi to her. It's really awesome to have someone so close who's also super influential. I'm going to pass it over to Erica.
All right, guys. So to get started, let's who better to be like our filmmakers of the week than everyone that's here? Because I mean, when I was making this slide show, I was like, wow, women in the industry, who can I talk about? How about the people that show up to our meetings every week and like the people that are coming to class and doing their homework and going to work and doing all these really hard things when we're living in a time that is not easy. So I just wanted to kind of spread that little positive vibe to everyone because, like, not to sound like a kindergarten teacher, but like, give yourselves a pat on the back. Like, we really did that. The semester's almost over, or it's going to be summer, and we all did really incredible things. So I just wanted to start with that.
And especially like, thank you guys for coming to our meeting. Like, it takes a lot. I know for me too, to be like, okay, Friday afternoon, we're doing this. Like, it's going to be a meeting. We're going to have a good time. We're going to spread wisdom. And especially to you guys who also went above and beyond and went to our guest speakers, did productions, went to the writers group. Like, thank you so much for still making Women in Motion such an exciting club, even though we are online. And hopefully, as Erica mentioned, once the pandemic's over, obviously it's been a weird time and like we've all gotten through it, but hopefully if it's over next semester, at least a little less raging, we can, have in-person meetings and make it feel more like an in-person community. Because right now we're very an online community, which is awesome. We know each other. I see you guys on campus sometimes and I'll bump into you. But besides that, it feels very online. So I can't wait until we can get back onto that in-person community.
I definitely miss in-person meetings. I'm so excited to get back. So something I was really excited to talk about when I was like, yay, I get to lead this meeting. I know we don't cover a lot about trans women and non-binary people in film. We do talk a lot about cis women, and those women are great. But let's talk about some of our other friends, right? So I found this really interesting article actually from GLAAD. It's this yearly report that they do of different LGBTQ plus stats that they find in film. So they look at all of the films that come from the major film companies. So in this year, this was from last year, they released the report, but it's about 2019. That was the most recent one I could find. And so there were 118 films that came out from the major film companies, the major studios. So these are some quotes from the article. So for the third year in a row, transgender characters were entirely absent from major studio releases. And another one says, while the year did include 4 transgender and or non-binary actors in major releases, none of those films established those characters as transgender or non-binary within the film's world. So that's really upsetting and disappointing. We see a lot of progress happening in the industry, but it's not nearly enough. I mean, 4 transgender and or non-binary actors, 4? I mean, come on, like that is not enough. So I just wanted to bring light on that. And yeah, and this article was super interesting. They had a ton of statistics about a bunch of different types of representation. They had how many like lesbians, gay representation there were. They talked a lot about how little bisexuality was represented. So I highly recommend checking it out if you want to read it. It was really cool.
Also, like, I know we do usually use statistics talking about like major studios because that's like a lot of what statistics come out from, and that's what a lot of people are looking at, which is like sucks if the people who are leading the industry and who are kind of the marker for it are not even hiring or promoting trans and non-binary people. And that's not saying that like independent studios or other film production companies aren't doing that, but it's just like the people that most citizens look to find their content and their media and their movies are not representing these characters and these people in our day-to-day lives makes it really frustrating. So I think I just wanted to point that out, saying that like this doesn't mean that LGBTQ representation isn't happening in the media, but it's that big companies, big studios that almost everyone knows about and consumes aren't doing it, then that's where the problem really lays.
Yeah, this is just from 2019's 118 big studio releases. There are obviously a ton of independent film releases where you can find great LGBTQ representation. This is just the data that was pulled here. Yeah. So we'll talk about the Wakowskis. You may know their movie The Matrix, which actually came out before both of them transitioned, but now you may know the show on Netflix Sense8. I know that it has LGBTQ representation. I'm pretty sure it's like kind of a sci-fi horror show. If anyone can like confirm that, I don't know. But yeah, they created, wrote, directed, and produced the show. They both did season 1, but then just Lana did. Their names are Lana and Lily, and just Lana did season 2. And they've worked together as a team, and they've worked separately, and they're super successful. And I wanted to just highlight them because they're someone they made something that a lot of us probably know about. And here are two other filmmakers. So this is Sei Adembanjo. They are a non-binary activist and filmmaker, and they have a 30-minute documentary called Oya, Something Happened on the Way to West Africa. And then this is Sydney Freeland. She's a transgender woman and a Navajo filmmaker, and she directed every episode of the Emmy-nominated short form series Her Story. You may have heard of that. And then shout out to my friend David, who gave me all these recommendations here on the side. So Tangerine is a movie from 2015. It's about a transgender sex worker, I believe. Bit, really cool movie that he told me about. It's about this like transgender vampire. Really cool. We all maybe have heard of the show Pose. I think it's on, I don't know what platform it's on actually. But yeah, that's got great representation. And then Disclosure is a documentary that came out. I think Laverne Cox did it. So yeah, those are some cool options for things if you're looking for. One final thing, and like representation standpoint, and something that anyone here that identifies as a woman can, you know, take and listen to and think about is that it can be really exciting when we see women succeeding, because that's what we're here to talk about. We're here to celebrate all of those really great things that women are doing, but we have to remember that that's not the end. That is only the beginning. We have to be the ones to push for more diversity, because if we just stop with being women and saying, well, that's enough, it's not enough. We have to do more than that. And I think that everyone here has such amazing ideas, and like I'm always so impressed by everyone. So I know that we can be the people that can do this. So that was, yeah. So one of the big things we do with these women in the industry meetings is we kind of all share our own stories. So I have a few questions up here. I want to start with the first one. I'd love to hear some successful women you look up to. You can type it in chat or you can share. I'm just going to start to get the ball rolling. There is a just this woman that works in film and in music and in photography. Her name is Gina. She directed the music videos for my favorite singer, B. Miller, and I actually reached out to her like a month or so ago, and I asked for her advice, and I was really surprised to hear back from her. She sent me a very long email with really wonderful advice. Um, and it was really great. Another woman I wanted to say, some of you may have had her here. She's a professor at Emerson, and her name is Aida. Um, Riley isn't here, but she is in my class for that as well. And she is the most amazing woman. She is a producer, a full-time producer, and she also is a professor at Emerson, and she is probably the smartest person um, I've ever met. Lindsay knows her. So if you get the chance to take one of her classes, I would highly recommend it. She is great, and she is someone I am definitely looking forward to continuing like talking to her and having her as a contact. I feel like she knows everything, and it's so cool to like have someone, a woman in the industry, being my professor, because it makes me feel so good about my future. So if anyone else wants to share some women that they love and look up to, the floor is yours. I know that you all love someone and think they're cool.
I'll share mine. Also have a little bit of a plug with it. I am a huge fan of a screenwriting consultant. She's actually not a working screenwriter in Hollywood, but she does consulting and she teaches classes based on screenwriting. Her name is Pilar Alessandra, and she actually came to my screenwriting class a couple weeks ago, and she was just so nice and down to earth, gave us advice on our log lines. She's actually coming to talk to Women in Motion members at our writers group. So if that's something you're interested in, April 30th, she'll be coming to our writers group meeting to give some input on writing. And just to shout out another Emerson professor, I'm currently taking a class with Amy Geller. She is also a working producer. She does documentary work, and she is awesome. She teaches intro to producing, and that's what I have with her right now. And she's awesome. She's also, like I said, like a working producer. She's doing a documentary right now, working with someone in Minnesota, and she's released and gone to festivals before. And she's also awesome and a really great resource.
I can share mine. I really love Kirsten Johnson. I know we had her as a Woman of the Week, mostly because I just really like her, but she's like a documentary filmmaker and specifically does camera operating mostly. That's what her main like role in life has been on most sets that she's done. But like she just travels around the world making documentaries. I'm like, that's what I want to do. That's who I want to be. So she's super cool. And the fact that she has made a film called Camera Person, which me and Emily both have seen because that was shown in our intro to doc thing, that basically took all of her work that she'd done on other documentaries and compiled it, plus like other home videos that she'd made, but compiled it into her own film. I felt very inspired by that, to be like, whoa, you can do stuff for other people, but then also use that for yourself and be like, look, this is my work. This is what it's like to be a camera person, to be behind the camera, shooting super interesting, gripping, scary situations, and kind of the life of what that's like to be a documentary filmmaker. And then also shout out to another professor, Mariona Loretta, my favorite woman ever, writing the short. She's just a queen. And I think she's super cool because she's done a lot of international filmmaking. So she does a lot of work in like Spain and Brazil and stuff like that. But I would recommend taking, even if you're not into writing, take her class, just because like you need to experience how amazing of a person she is. But yeah, she basically does, I think she only teaches writing the short, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, she's an incredible woman.
We have a lovely comment from Lindsay that says that she looks up to our wonderful president, Emily, as she inspires me every day and pushes me to be a better and more productive filmmaker. And then she also talked about the writing for the short subject professor that you just mentioned. And she's a wonderful teacher, and she wants everyone to succeed and feel heard in her class. And like my talents and abilities being fostered and celebrated, which in my opinion has really been hard at Emerson. And I totally agree with that, Lindsay. That's another reason I really love AIDA. Having a professor that you can tell really cares that you are succeeding is so hard to find, I feel like, unfortunately, but it is such a good feeling to have. Another Woman of the Week that we had that I would love to talk about is Chloe Zhao, because when I think about how she wrote, directed, and edited Nomadland, I literally lose my mind because that is so incredible. Yeah, so I just wanted to bring her up because she's incredible and amazing. But if no one else has anything, we can go to the next question.
I can go. Mine, I think she was the Woman of the Week last week, but Thelma Schumacher, who is the longtime editor for Martin Scorsese. I just think that is so cool that she's been around since his first movie, because I love that movie. It's called Who's That Knocking at My Door? And it's a really interesting look on like Catholic guilt and stuff. And like, I think it's so cool that like he's had her on his team like since before it was cool, you know, to like have women on your team and work with them very closely. So I just think that's super cool. And she does an amazing job editing. I mean, every one of those movies that she does just is so great. And my next one, I know she's a nepotism baby, so that kind of sucks, you know, like now that I think about it. But I love Laura Dern. She has been one of my heroes since I was a kid, because I love Jurassic Park and I love her character in Jurassic Park. Her name's Ellie. I always forget her last name. But, you know, she always inspired me to be kind of like a strong, take charge woman since I was a kid. So yeah, I know she didn't really have to fight for her way in the industry since her dad is Bruce Dern, who's also a great actor. But I think that her attitude, both on and off camera, is awesome. So yeah.
Love Laura Dern. She's so great. Yeah, do we want to go to the next question?
I would like to give a shout out to Kat, actually. Kat is like very dedicated to her work as a screenwriter and like opening the writers group. She just like really wants to share everything that she's ever learned in all of her like seminars and her classes. And Kat has been a wonderful leader of the writers group. So I just wanted to say that about Kat.
Thank you, Julia. That means a lot to hear.
So, going to the next question, are there any struggles that you have had to overcome that you would like to share? I know this is kind of like maybe more like I have to think about this question, so no rush. I guess I should have come up with something before the meeting so I could share, but oh, yes, Kat says that she loves all her writers group members. Yay. Yeah, I mean, I feel lucky that I haven't had really difficult time yet. I've worked with some really great people so far on the projects I've gotten to be involved in, and I haven't felt like doubted because I'm a woman. And I know that can be like rare at Emerson. I know a lot of us have shared that we definitely come into this feeling a little bit worried about like our skill levels because we feel like we're supposed to know everything, but we're not. And that's definitely something that's hard to like accept, but you find the people that like give you that you can like depend on, that help you realize that we're in this together and we're learning and we don't need to know everything.
I feel like this semester for me, very similar, Erica, or before this semester, I was like, I hadn't experienced a lot of like stereotyping or sexism or stuff like that. This semester, I don't know what happened, but like anything that could have gone wrong went wrong in terms of like, I had a lot of equipment-based roles on set. So I was like AC, I was DP, doing a lot of that stuff. And I was doubted by a lot of people I didn't think would doubt me. And I myself still struggle, especially with like camera work and stuff like that, because I think it doesn't come as naturally as like directing or producing for me, but it's something that I really love and enjoy. And that was really hard. And I had like a moment of like, oh my God, what am I doing with myself? And then on the flip side, as like, you know, kind of good news, I like got a bunch of people who asked me to work on their set for next semester in those types of roles. And I was like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. Like my hard work paid off. I just, sometimes you have to like, you know, get through those times of like hearing negativity to then get on the flip side of knowing that even though some people doubt you, a lot of people watch you and see your hard work, and you power through that negativity and dealing with it in a courageous way makes other people realize. And as you were saying, Erica, you find those people who enjoy working with you and who respect you for who you are. I also did want to share something that I heard the other day in one of my classes about this person in my class. They had worked as a production designer on multiple sets, a couple BFAs and one EIV show, and were never credited as the production designer because the director believed they were the ones who should have been credited as the production designer. And that shocked me because I had never heard of someone doing that before, especially on a BFA or an EIV show. And they were put as just art director when they were specifically hired on the set as the production designer and very much led a crew of people. And something that my teacher recommended when this person brought this up in class was to always make a contract. It doesn't matter how silly or stupid it feels. It doesn't matter if it's you and two other friends, just write it down. Even like a scrap piece of paper, be like, do you agree that I will show up on the credits, or that I am being hired as, or that I am notified or known on this set as a certain role? Because people will take advantage of you, even if you think you trust them or you know them well. A lot of times, my teacher also said, when you are around friends, they take more liabilities because they know you very well. And it's like, they probably won't care if I become production designer and they become art director. A lot of times, if you're working with strangers, they won't do that. So it's very important. And that was something that shocked me. And now I'm like, okay, moving forward, I know what to do. Like, I'm going to draft up a contract if I feel like someone above me may change the credits and where my name should be placed on, you know, the movie. Like, that's where you get to show what you've done and all the hard work, and that's where you're credited for what you put into the set. So I just want to let you all know that that should be something to keep in mind. And this really sucks that this what happened to this person multiple times. This wasn't just a one instance. But I just wanted to bring that up. And I also wanted to read Lindsay's comment. She said, I worked on a set where I was the only female key lead. I was production designer, and one of the producers on set was extremely rude and disrespectful to me. It made me second guess my ability on an already male heavy set. I was also on that set, so I understand that was a really icky situation, and definitely is hard when you're a key. And I was the co-executive producer of that, and I even felt very disrespected by my co-executive producer, who happened to be a male, and everyone else really on that set happened to be a male. So it was hard to get past that. But at the same time, it's like I don't want to like disregard that, but how I've started to look at it is those instances make you stronger, and then know who you're not going to work with. You're like, okay, you disrespect me on set, I'm not going to work with you. And especially if you have power, which we all have power at Emerson, like major power. Like, I respect each and every one of you and would hire you for anything. That sort of bond holds us all as powerful people, and choosing not to hire someone can ruin their chances further in the future. I also wanted to read, Julia, your comment. This kind of happened to my roommate with one of her good friends. She wrote most of the lyrics for a musical short film he was producing, and he tried to change her credit to additional writer instead of written by. Yeah. And just that small little wording changes everything because it discredits you for all the work you put in. Anyone else have anything? Yeah, Jillian, go ahead.
Well, I'm just adding to your story about not getting credited properly. It's like this happens in the industry too. And I know this was a really long time ago, but like at the Oscars in 1968, Stanley Kubrick, which I love Stanley Kubrick's movies, so like I'm not necessarily roasting him, and he probably didn't do this, but he won the Oscar for best special effects and visual effects for 2001: A Space Odyssey when like he is not the sole person to have done those visual effects, you know, like there's a whole huge team that went into that. So I think your story is really interesting about how like it's important to take charge of that now, because that's kind of the shit that will happen to you in the industry as well. But going on, I'll say like my thing is like, as a journalist, you know, that's a heavily male dominated field. And then also filmmaking is a heavily male dominated field. And I worry as someone who wants to write about film, you know, like I'm going to encounter so many of these like film bro kind of guys. And I feel like a lot of the kinds of movies that I like, Julia can attest to this, is that I love like film bro movies, you know? And so like, but coming from it at a different place, you know, and it's like, I think I worry about the struggle of like competing my views with like male views in the industry, because a lot of times, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there's some movies like Bombshell had like low Julia, call me out in the fucking comments. But Bombshell had pretty low critic ratings, but if you looked at it, like they were all white men who were critiquing this movie about women's experience with sexual harassment, and there was so few amount of women who were actually critiquing this movie, and most of the women I feel like said that it was like, you know, I thought it was a really great movie about what it's like to be a woman in the workplace in a toxic environment. And so just to see like, you know, to try and have my voice not overshadowed by all of these men in the industries who, I don't want to say their opinion isn't valid, but whose opinion sometimes is not the right opinion for a specific subject. And even just in general, you know, like, yeah. So I think that's like a struggle that I worry about, is just the male opinions in the film critique circle and how that kind of, you know, meshes with this whole thing. Yeah.
And this is why we need you, Jillian, in the journalism world. We need you here, like bringing your voice all the time, because the more women we have writing about film or journalism in general, the more promotion we get for films that regularly just don't get credit that they deserve, because you have white male writers saying this sucks. And it's like, no, that's not true.
I was going to go off of that. And I, last year, it's okay, Riley, we were talking about women we love, and I was talking about how much I love Aida, and I was like looking for you and you weren't here.
She's awesome.
She's incredible. No, I was just going to say, I think it was in my intro to writing class. I wrote my intro to college writing, like the one we have to take. I wrote about how film, I think this is where I wrote it. I don't know. That doesn't really matter. The point is that I was like, people write reviews for movies that aren't meant for them, and then they get bad reviews. And I was like specifically talking about Frozen 2, and everyone that had like reviewed it was like a man with like no kids, and they were like, ew, this movie's so bad. And I was like, what? I was like, why are you reviewing this movie anyway? Like, this isn't even made for you. So that, you talking about that was just like so interesting to me, because I just wonder why those people decide to write about those movies if they know they're not going to like them. Of course, some movies deserve negative reviews if they're like actually really not good, but all of that is subjective anyway.
It's such a struggle I see a lot of times, is I'll see these movie reviews and I'm like, one, these people have no joy in their lives. Like, they just don't want to enjoy anything, you know? Like, sometimes I'll read that, I'm like, okay, but did you just like it? Like, it didn't have to be good. Did you have a good time? But like, yeah, it's such a struggle, because you see like people not suspending their own worldview to watch something. Like when you're watching Frozen 2 and you're a grown ass man, yeah, like it's like you have to suspend your like point of view a little bit and be like, this is a child's movie, you know? But also Frozen 2 is amazing and the songs are so good.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that's such a really good point. And I feel like this happens just a lot. And I'll plug your guys' movies, don't worry. I don't know if that's a conflict of interest, but they don't have to know.
Never.
I'm like, who is that? What's Woman in Motion? Anyways, watch this. But yeah, no, I feel like that's such a good point. Like, I feel like that happens all the time, and it is just, it's so frustrating to see. So yeah.
It's a weird thing that happens. I don't know. If no one else has anything to share for this specific question, we can
actually, I'd love to talk a bit more about what Kat said, because Kat's absolutely right, saying that film bros tend to just have the loudest voices. And I think that's because they've never been told to be quiet, while everyone else has. So like we have been told constantly, like I cannot tell you how many times I'm like in a class and I pitch this crazy idea, like sci-fi, like big, giant, risk-taking kind of things. And they're like, well, don't you want to start small? Don't you, isn't that a little bit out of your like experience range or something along those lines? And I never hear those like things to even to like film bros, because they're always like, wow, you have the ability to do that, go off, like take risks and stuff like that. And then everyone else is told like, no, take your time, you shouldn't be as confident in yourself, like you should stop. So like we have to overcome that barrier, like that mental barrier, like of people telling us that we can't do stuff. So take those risks, take those big leaps, because like film bros just have so much confidence that is undeserved, and we have so much confidence that we need to just grow and foster and like create. So Kat, I think you're absolutely right with that.
And like we do hate on film bros all the time, and I think it's okay. But also like we have to remember that we're the ones who are moving forward in the industry. They're staying where they are. I'm sorry, you're not moving anywhere, film bros. You're staying right there with your like stupid opinions, your awful jaded views of the world. But we are the influencers. We're coming in here fast on a train, gonna knock them all out of the way. And we are the ones who are bringing these stories like Erica was talking about that like, you know, haven't been heard before or aren't normally heard by people. So I'm not worried. We're coming in full steam ahead, like, you know, 1,000 miles per hour. So I'm not worried. And we just have to know that they're going to stay where they are. They really don't. Their brain is drained of all good ideas because we have all the good ideas.
They are people we must encounter in our lives in order to grow, unfortunately. We've all been there, I'm sure.
That was the most inspirational thing I've ever heard. I cannot wait to conquer the film bro. And, like in the past.
They are merely an obstacle. Okay. We kind of have been doing this the whole time, but a question I had asked is, do we have any advice for each other? I feel like while we were talking, we kind of were sharing advice. And so far everything has been like so wonderful, and I'm just like loving talking to all of you. So I mean, yeah, I still, like I was saying before, I still feel like such a beginner here. And like right now I am the editor for 2 projects and I am having a great time, but I feel so unqualified, and it is so unfortunate because editing is my love and I love doing it, and it makes me really excited. And then I'm sitting there and I'm editing and I'm like, they're gonna hate it. They're gonna hate it so bad. And I don't know, like, I wish that, you know, we could get past that and like really like believe in ourselves in these roles that we get put in for a reason. People hire us for a reason, right? Like that has to be what it is. So I don't know, just maybe I can take my own advice, but believe in yourself, corny as it sounds.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same. Like, don't doubt yourself. I think we're especially in an industry where guys are not afraid to just have the confidence and go in and just do it, even if they're the least qualified person. They just have the confidence and they go in and do it. And I feel like women are always second guessing themselves and thinking, you know, they're not gonna like this, or maybe I'm not ready, or I'm still a beginner. And we kind of have to just go for it. I mean, I was at a screenwriting summit over the weekend, and there was this guy who he'd never written a script, and you know he was constantly interrupting all the women in this like Zoom group that we were in. And he's like, I have these 2 ideas, but like he didn't want to actually write them. He just wanted someone else to write them for him. He was just like, hey, yeah, here's my email. You know, just email me and basically like write my scripts for me. And he was just this very loud, constantly interrupting man. And you know, it's like, yeah, you know, maybe not go to that level, but you know, you have to have the confidence to just kind of do it and say what you want to do and talk about your projects. And you're gonna meet men like that man who, you know, no experience, no qualifications, who just kind of thinks he knows what he's talking about, even when he doesn't. And I think that sometimes that even comes down to like bullshitting. Like, you know, some people are just bullshit artists and they can make it sound like they know more than they do. And I feel like more of the time women really do have the knowledge and, you know, the resources to do it and pull it off, and we just second guess ourselves. So I'm gonna second what Erica said and just say, be confident, don't doubt yourself. You got this, you can do this. You are so much more qualified than you give yourself credit for.
I want to piggyback off of that and also say a lot of men, which I have had 3 experiences this semester that, if you want to name names, we'll talk about it at another point. I thought we were like gods of Emerson. I was like, you are so good at what you do. No. Like, I'm like, oh God, I know so much more than you. And I thought you were like one of the most knowledgeable people here at Emerson. So I think not only believing in yourself, but not holding people as high just because of their gender. And that I realized, I checked myself and I was like, I'm holding them at this place of status because they're men that I've heard their name thrown around at Emerson. And now I'm actually working with them and I'm like, yikes, what happened? Like, where did, what? And I'm like, I understand why you hired me now because I'm helping this like actually get made. But like, it's surprising sometimes how I definitely, and I'm sure all of us have had such a preconceived notion of people going into it thinking that they know a lot more than you do. And then you realize, wait, actually, I'm the most smart, like, I'm the smartest one in the room. So owning up to that and then, you know, taking that into your control. But it's just really, it surprises me every time being like, wow, I thought you knew a lot more. Like, I guess not.
Jillian, I was just reading your comment and I was thinking about those TikToks of like people that make bumper stickers that are like really ridiculous. And I was like imagining like one with like flames and it's like an X. Like,
I love those stickers. Also, Riley, I also think it would be really sexy of us. It's a hot woman thing. Hot girl.
It would just be so fun and sexy of us if
unfortunately,
we
they could
made.
not be affiliated with Women in Motion, but you know.
But also, boys don't like to be called film bros. I called a boy a film bro the other day. He's like, "I'm not a film bro. What are you talking about?" And I'm like, I would rethink that. But okay, I won't.
If you're that mad about it, then you probably are one. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, I love those crazy bumper stickers, and I think we should design some that are not affiliated with Women in Motion necessarily, but
they're just for fun.
it's our side hustle.
Yeah, exactly.
Bumper stickers side hustle. Does anyone have any other advice?
I've got one more thing to talk about, I guess. For me, I've realized that like I have become hyper aware of when I'm like the only woman in the room, or like when I am like something along those lines. But I have realized that it's a lot more productive if I assume good faith of them, like because so many men are not aware, like they just don't realize it because that's their norm. They're like, oh, I'm in a room full of creative people and we're making a movie, and then when I point something out, like, oh, I'm the only female producer on this team, or oh, we've only hired like 3 other women, or oh, we don't have any like people of color at all in this room right now while we're making big decisions. Like they just don't, some of them just don't recognize it, and then they act like, oh, how do we fix that? So I think it's our job to not, I know we love to like shit on film bros, and like it's fair because it can be annoying to deal with them. It can be really hard to like try and like circumnavigate their like entitlement, but it's also important to like be like, we have to make a change, and it's shouldn't be our job to try and change them, but they're not going to change without us pushing them in a way that is like teaching them productively. Because if we only say, shut up, you're a film bro, nothing's going to change because they'll just be, oh, she's just a bitch. Like that conflict doesn't solve anything. It's only when you reach out your hand and say, there's a better way to do things, that things will actually change.
I think you're right. I think they're like a lot of the times completely blissfully unaware. And you know, unfortunately there are some that aren't, that they just don't care. But I feel like,
no, absolutely there are so many assholes,
I just feel like, you know, you're right. Like if you know, were on a set and you were like, hey, have you noticed that I'm the only woman here? They're probably like, oh no, I didn't notice, because they're like, they just don't have to. That's not their that's just like not what they have to pay attention to. But no, I think you're right, Julia. I think that like once they know, like they would be more aware. And you know, people like they're just never gonna like understand until we like make them understand. And it sucks sometimes, but it has to get done. I mean, if we want to make change, we've got to do it ourselves. But yeah. want to go on to the last question? I don't even remember what it was. Okay. What can Women in Motion do to continue to promote the success of marginalized groups? I think that what we just talked about is one great one. Making sure that people know that we're fighting for representation on sets, you know, like we want to make people aware that there's an issue. I think that that's one really great first step that honestly, if Julia hadn't said anything just then, I probably wouldn't have thought of it.
I think one thing is maybe like I've noticed a lot recently how like in some filmmakers like try and write for the voices of other marginalized groups when really they should just give the microphone to other marginalized groups. And like one person or like one example, like what made me think of this was like Sam Levinson and making Malcolm and Marie. Like instead of like a lot of the stuff he said, one was just bullshit because he got like one bad movie review and had like a freak out and wrote a movie about it. But like also like I feel like a lot of the stuff that he was saying, I didn't really think was his to say. And I feel like instead Sam Levinson could have like passed the mic to a Black filmmaker who could have said authentic things, you know, about the Black experience. And so I feel like just as, you know, filmmakers and as you know, people who are going into the industry, like especially like with producing and stuff, like you don't have to like you can give the voice to other people who are marginalized and use your power to like help other people create things that are like authentic and real, because I feel like I see that a lot in the industry sometimes is like people try and write something for the voice of others when really they should have just passed the mic a little bit. So yeah.
Or even just had someone on their team that could work with them. Like if they really feel like this story is something they want to tell, bring someone on who's had first experience with this or is more qualified to talk about this. But I think you're so right, Jillian. That's something we also like, I never think about. Like it's really easy to be like, I have this idea, but there's probably so many other people who are way more qualified to talk about it and want to talk about it. We just need to give them the opportunity and not steal that story when it's not really ours to tell.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting line to draw. I've always thought of it as you can tell stories with people who have different experiences than you. Like, I can write a story that has a person of color in it. However, I can't write a story that deals with the specific experiences and like barriers that like people of color experience, since I cannot speak to that truthfully. However, if I'm writing a giant sci-fi soap opera and I have multiple trans characters, multiple like people of color, like that's not, to me, that doesn't seem like it feels like me adding to representation and trying to show more and like create the more diverse and inclusive kind of show that I would want to make.
I wanted to touch on Lindsay's comment because this is actually something that has been like really that I've been like struggling with because I like so badly want people to know Women in Motion is like a place for everyone, and it is like you're right, like it's hard because we're called Women in Motion, and I like that. I love that. It's what drew me to it in the first place. I just wish that there was, I mean, maybe there is a way, but a way to make it clear that, you know, we want people to be here that care about these issues that we talk about, and that can be anyone. I mean, you know, and I think that's so important that you brought it up, and it's something that I feel like I think about constantly. We also had, sorry, I didn't read Kat's comment. The Representation Project is a great place for resources. Oh, that's so cool.
Misrepresentation, incredible film. Incredible film. I would highly, highly recommend it. And then they did like a sequel. It was like The Mask Behind the Mask or something.
The Mask You Live In?
Or The Mask Behind the Mask You Live Behind. I don't know. Something like that. Both, I would honestly recommend doing like a movie marathon and watch both back to back. So good. I I think I like laid down afterwards and was like, wow, the world is a crazy place. And like then took all the little tidbits that they talked about and have like tried to 100% instill them in my brain and like check myself a lot more. But incredible documentaries, incredible.
Yeah, the mask you live in centers more on the male side of things and sensitivity and how we're teaching men and boys about being vulnerable and showing emotion and that sort of thing. And as Emily was saying, Misrepresentation, one of my favorite films. I've seen it multiple times. It's so good. It has so much to it and talking about women in power. So it's not just about, how we're depicted, but then how it influences our ability to find ourselves in positions of power, whether that's, in film or in politics. And their website has a bunch of resources. They do film screenings. I would love to have Emerson do a film screening of Misrepresentation. They also do, like I said, camps in the summer for girls from different areas and low income areas to get their hands on cameras and get involved with media making. They do a lot of social media. They have online communities where you can talk to other women and get involved with the mission. So great resource if this is something that you're really passionate about and want to get more involved in.
Oh, Dylan, you have a comment here. She said, I showed clips of Misrepresentation last year in class, and I was so shocked at how surprised the men in the room were with the facts that were presented in it. Yeah. I remember, I think I watched it in my high school class. We watched both movies, and like everyone was like, wow. It's a wow movie. Like, I really can't say anything else. You need to watch it on your own because I don't want to give anything away. But yeah, I think it's eye-opening for everyone, no matter what, to see both sides, to see your own side of how we all are represented in society. Yeah, does anyone else have anything else they'd like to chat about in terms of everything we've gone over today? Any sort of, oh, Lindsay, I don't know much about it, but Women's Voices Now came up on my Pinterest the other day. As a free place to stream films that are all about women's rights. Awesome. Thank you, Lindsay. Great. Oh, Riley, go ahead.
I don't know if you guys have talked about this, but something I've been thinking about a lot lately is like what it's like to find somebody that you match with really well creatively. And I think that's really important is that if you surround yourself with people that you match really well with creatively and people that respect you, I think that it's more fun to make stuff. And then the stuff that you make, you're going to be so much prouder of. And like, I mean, because we're all like beginners in the industry, we don't really have that luxury to surround ourselves with people that we choose. But I think for like more personal projects and stuff, it's important to surround yourself with people that not only you respect, but that respect you as well.
And then you get to collect all those people and keep them with you forever. They don't leave. They don't leave once you get out of college. You have that person you can call up and be like, hey, I respect you. You respect me. Let's work together again. So keep collecting those people. And that's so true, Riley. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, just to kind of go off of that, I know we've talked about as a board, and I think it was Julia Kerr who actually brought this up, the idea of having a database of women who have been involved in Women in Motion, both in the past and currently, so that when you're, currently at Emerson, you have some resources for finding people for sets. And then once you leave Emerson, you still have a resource to go find your fellow Women in Motion members who, maybe they graduated a couple of years after you did, and that will be, we're hoping to have that resource, maybe building that up over the summer so that, when you go out into the industry, you can still keep these connections and find other badass women to work with.
And we'd love to add your guys' connections as well to this. This is not just a board made thing. Like, we are obviously going to go through the history of Women in Motion. We already have, thank you, Julia Kerr, for an amazing document that has like talked about people who have been on Women in Motion, but also just making it a platform where everyone can add and be like, this is someone I worked with who I felt respected by, who has respected me, and someone that we should talk about and celebrate and be a connection that we can then lean on.
Yeah, that was going to be my summer project. I'm hoping to make it like a website basically where you can put in your information and then it shows up and then you can search for like, I'm looking for someone to talk about like DP stuff or like gaffing stuff and like see who pops up with that. It's going to be a while though. So I might just make it a Google form as it goes and then like we'll make it a website nice and pretty later. But that's something I'm definitely hoping to work on because I think that'll be just really nice to have, especially since I'm graduating. I want to stay in contact with all of y'all because I know everyone here is going to be doing great stuff in the future. And I'm gonna mooch off all of your guys' success. So
Awesome. Well, that basically wraps up. I'm not going to call it our final meeting because we do have our short film showcase, but it kind of is our final meeting. So I just want to say thank you all so much for sticking with Women in Motion. We hope to see you if you're not graduating next semester. We've welcomed you and been so happy for everyone who's come in the past years, and for all the new people who came this semester. Please let us know if you want to stay in touch. We're going to try and be as active as possible over the summer. Kat, I know, is still going to try and do the writers group. We're going to try and continue to promote and make Women in Motion something that happens and continues to happen. But seriously, like, we love you all so much. I have been so lucky to be present this semester, even in such hard times, but seriously, like, I've felt so excited every single day to make the presentations. And then when Friday comes, I get so giddy and excited. I just want to do one last event promotion for everyone who did the short film projects. Today is the last day to submit to the Short Film Festival, which is going to be happening on next Friday, which is technically our last meeting. Seriously, if you don't have a final product, please just share like some BTS photos. We would just love to see what's happening and everything. I sent emails out to all the filmmakers, but also we are thinking of possibly, like, if you have something that you're really proud of that you'd like to share that you made over the semester, please feel free to do that as well. So if you worked on a project that maybe was for class, I know, Riley, you showed the other day your incredible, beautiful, most excellent Marvel Princess trailer, and I think you should submit that just so we can show it to everyone.
You're so kind.
So if you really are excited about something you made this semester or even last semester, we'd be happy to share it. The Google form just has you write a little description about what it is, but please do that. Email it to us also, because this is going to be about a 2-hour short film showcase. So we are making a lot of time for everyone to show their stuff and to promote all of you, because we've been doing all the talking this year. Now it's you guys to do the talking and show what you've, actually accomplished and made. So please submit and let people know who are in Women in Motion, who haven't come to this meeting, if they want to submit as well. But we are so excited and happy to have all of you as part of our community, all of our connections. We'll have this forever, and it feels great to know that. Anyways, everyone, please enjoy the weekend. Kat, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, quick shout out. I know I didn't send an email, but there is going to be the writers group tonight at 5:30. If you haven't come to any meetings and you still want to show up, please do. We're certainly not limited to the people who already come. And I also want to point out that we are working on building a website and having these resources. And we've also talked about, if you guys are comfortable and you want to share your films with us or links to Vimeo, we would love to put those on our website to just amplify your work even more. And just to even go back to next semester stuff, if you have ideas or things that you want to see us do, meeting ideas, anything that, maybe we're not doing now or you want to see in the future, we're really hoping to do a lot more in person next semester, assuming that things go well with the vaccinations and everything. So always feel free to reach out and email us. We're kind of open door. So if you have an idea, we would love to implement it into our plans for next semester.
We're also going to be doing a little bit of a merch day, aka we'll sit in 172 and everybody can come and pick up little goodie bags. We are waiting for the merch to come in, obviously, but once it does, emails shall be sent and we will give you all fun goodie bags with new logos. Like, we have some new stuff that has been specially curated for Women in Motion. So get excited for that. And as always, enjoy your weekend, stay safe, stay happy, and I love you all.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.